The sun had not yet risen, and the sky was a pale gray over the valley. Mist hung over the river like smoke from a dying fire. The water moved slowly, cold and quiet, winding between rocks and fallen trees. Somewhere in that silence, a young human boy named Eli was walking barefoot through the mud. He was no older than 16. His clothes were torn and his boots were gone long ago. His hair was tangled and his eyes looked tired but sharp, the eyes of someone who had learned to survive. He had no family, no home, and no one waiting for him. He was an orphan, living in the wild lands between human and alien borders. Eli carried a small knife and a sack made of old cloth. He searched the riverbanks every morning, hoping to find something, berries, fish, or metal scraps left behind by travelers. But that morning felt different. The air was too still. Even the birds were quiet. Eli knelt beside the water, washing the dirt from his hands. That's when he heard it, a faint sound like a soft whimper. He froze and looked around. The fog was thick, but he was sure someone was there. "Hello?" he called out carefully. His voice echoed across the river. No answer came, only the same soft crying sound. Eli picked up his knife and moved slowly toward the noise. His heart was beating fast. Maybe it was an animal, or worse, a scavenger. Then through the mist he saw a small shape lying by the riverbank. At first he thought it was a child. Then he realized it wasn't human. Her skin had a faint silver glow like moonlight on water. Her hair shimmered with blue strands, tangled and wet. One of her legs was twisted badly, and a strange metal band was wrapped around her ankle, cracked and sparking. Her face was young, no older than Eli's, but clearly alien. Her eyes opened wide and full of fear. They glowed pale green like liquid emerald. When she saw Eli, she gasped and tried to crawl away, but her leg gave out. She fell into the mud, trembling. Eli raised his hands. Hey, I won't hurt you," he said gently. He knelt down, keeping his distance. "You're hurt." "I can help." The alien girl stared at him, breathing fast. She spoke in a trembling voice, her words broken but clear. Go away, human." Her accent was strange, musical, and her tone carried both fear and pride. Eli saw how much pain she was in. Her leg was bleeding, and the river water was turning red around her. He shook his head. "If I leave you here, you'll die." "I don't need," she tried to say, but her voice faded as she fell unconscious. Eli hesitated for only a moment, then moved quickly. He tore a strip from his shirt and tied it tight around her leg to stop the bleeding. The band around her ankle was cracked technology, alien design, but he didn't touch it. Instead, he lifted her gently. She was light, almost weightless, but cold as ice. He carried her toward the other side of the river, where an old shelter of stone stood from before the war. The current was strong and the water bit into his legs, but he held on. Halfway across, the girl woke with a sharp gasp. "No, let me go." Eli gritted his teeth. "Quiet! You'll drown us both." She stopped struggling, staring at his determined face. Something in his eyes made her still. Not anger, but something stronger. He looked like someone who had nothing to lose, yet still chose to help. They reached the far bank, and Eli gently laid her on dry ground. Her breathing was rough, but she was alive. For a while, neither of them spoke. The dawn light began to rise, turning the mist golden. Finally, the girl whispered, Why help me?" Eli shrugged, breathing hard. "Because someone should." She looked confused. "Humans don't help us. My people say humans hate us." He gave a tired smile. "Then maybe your people are wrong." The girl stared at him for a long moment. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They will come for me." "Who?" he asked. "My clan," she said weakly. "They are close." "They will find me soon." Eli frowned. "Are they dangerous?" Her glowing eyes filled with sadness. "For you?" "Yes." Before he could ask more, a distant rumble shook the air. The ground trembled slightly under his hands. Eli looked up. In the distance, beyond the mountains, streaks of light were falling from the sky one after another. They weren't meteors. They were landing craft. The alien girl's voice trembled. "They're here." Eli turned toward the rising sun. His heart pounded as 50 silver dots burned through the dawn clouds, descending fast. He didn't know who these aliens were or what they wanted. But he knew one thing. If they found the girl, they'd kill him too. The wind carried a low, thunderous sound, the sound of engines and war. The day had just begun, and it was already too late to run. The morning sun climbed slowly over the valley, cutting through the fog. The ground still trembled with distant engines. Far away, bright silver shapes were moving across the sky, alien ships. They were coming fast. Eli stood beside the alien girl, watching the sky darken with smoke trails. She tried to rise but fell back, pain flashing across her face. Her leg was still swollen and weak. "We have to move," Eli said. "They'll find us here." "I can't," she whispered. "My leg, it's broken." Eli looked around. The river behind them was too open. There was no cover, just rocks and broken trees. Then he remembered an old shelter not far from here, left from before the war, an abandoned cargo post built into the hillside. He bent down. "Hold on to me. I'll carry you." The alien girl hesitated, but when she heard the roar of approaching ships, she nodded weakly. Her name, she said softly, was Lyra. Eli lifted her onto his back. She was light but trembling. He could feel her heartbeat against his shoulder, fast and scared. They moved quickly through the tall grass and ruined metal scraps that littered the ground. The air smelled of smoke and dust. Somewhere behind them, loud thumps echoed. Ships landing. Lyra whispered something in her own language, words Eli didn't understand. Her voice shook. "They are scanning the ground." "Looking for me? Why?" Eli asked, breathing hard as he climbed the hill. "Who are they?" "My people," she said. "The Tavari, warriors. They don't forgive weakness." Eli frowned. "They're your people and they want to kill you?" "They don't want to kill me," she said quietly. "They want to bring me back. But if they find you with me, they will kill you." That didn't change anything for Eli. "Then we better hide fast." They reached the cargo shelter, a half-buried metal bunker covered in vines and rust. The entrance was cracked open, its old lock broken. Inside was dark and cold. Eli carried Lyra in and laid her gently on the floor. He found some dry fabric and wrapped her in it to keep her warm. "You'll be safe here for now," he said. Lyra's glowing eyes watched him. "Why do you help me, human?" Eli shrugged. "You're hurt. That's reason enough." "No," she said, shaking her head. "My people destroyed your towns. They burned your ships. You should hate me." Eli looked at her for a moment, then spoke softly. "I hate what people do, not what they are." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. She didn't answer. Outside, a low hum grew louder, the sound of a scout drone passing over the hill. A red light flickered across the bunker's roof. Eli grabbed a piece of scrap metal and pulled it over the opening to block the light. The drone passed by slowly, scanning the ground. Lyra held her breath. For a moment it stopped. The red light hovered near the door crack. Eli's heart raced. Sweat rolled down his neck. He pressed his hand against Lyra's shoulder, signaling her to stay silent. The drone's light moved away. After a few seconds, the sound faded into the distance. They both exhaled. "That was close," Eli whispered. Lyra looked pale. "They will not stop. My father's soldiers are loyal. They will burn this valley to find me." Eli frowned. "Your father?" She nodded weakly. "General Kyrith, commander of the Eastern Fleet." Eli's stomach dropped. "You're the general's daughter?" Her voice broke. "I was, until I ran away." Outside, a sudden voice echoed through the valley, and loud, metallic, and cold. A broadcast coming from the alien ships. "Attention, human survivors. The Tavari Empire does not seek conflict. Return the missing royal child and no harm will come to you. Hide her and your land will burn." Eli froze. Lyra looked away, shame filling her face. He clenched his fists. "They're threatening everyone because of you." "I didn't mean to cause this," she whispered. "I only wanted to be free." Eli looked at her, truly looked, and saw not an enemy, but someone trapped by the same kind of loneliness he knew too well. "You don't have to go back," he said quietly. "We'll find another way." She stared at him, disbelief in her eyes. "You would die for a stranger?" "Maybe," Eli said, smiling faintly. "But I'd rather die doing the right thing than live running forever." For the first time, Lyra smiled too, a small, sad smile. Then a sudden crash shook the bunker. The wall trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Eli ran to the door and peered outside. In the distance, a squad of armored aliens had landed. They moved in formation, scanning every shadow. Their armor glowed like molten silver, and their weapons pulsed with blue light. Lyra's voice broke in fear. "They've found the trail. They're coming here." Eli turned back, eyes hard. "Then we move before they do." He packed what little he had, the knife, his bag, and a broken flashlight. He lifted Lyra again, and together they slipped out the back of the shelter into the forest. The sun was high now, but the valley felt colder than ever. Behind them, the sound of alien soldiers echoed, closer with every step. The chase had begun. And for the first time, Eli understood what it meant to be hunted, not by beasts but by an army from another world. The forest stretched wide and dark, filled with twisted trees and thick smoke from the ships that had landed nearby. Eli ran through the undergrowth, carrying Lyra on his back. Each breath burned in his lungs. The sound of alien soldiers echoed behind them, mechanical footsteps steady and heavy. Every few seconds, bright blue lights flashed through the fog. The scanners. They were searching for her. Faster, Lyra whispered weakly. They're closing in. I'm trying, Eli said, his voice tight. His arms ached, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. The forest was old, once green and full of life, now blackened from years of war. Burned tree trunks stood like broken teeth. Smoke filled the air, and somewhere in that smoke he heard engines roar. Then came the first explosion. A bolt of plasma hit the ground near them, lighting up the forest in blue fire. The ground shook. Trees fell. Eli dove behind a fallen log, covering Lyra with his body. Sparks rained down like stars. She gritted her teeth in pain. They're using flame drones. They'll burn everything. He looked at her, heart pounding. You said there's a way out? A bridge of light? She nodded, coughing. An old teleporter. Built by my people before the war. It's across the mountains. If we reach it, I can go home. Eli glanced toward the distant peaks, barely visible through the smoke. Then that's where we're going. Lyra's eyes widened. It's days away. Then we'd better start walking, he said, standing up. They moved through the burned woods, careful and silent. Above them, drones flew in slow circles, their lights sweeping the ground. Eli timed their movement between scans, ducking under fallen trees and crawling through the ashes. Once a drone came too close. It stopped right above them, its red lens glowing. Eli held his breath and pressed Lyra's head gently down. The drone hovered for a moment, then zoomed away, missing them by inches. When they finally reached a clearing, Eli's legs gave out. He set Lyra down near a pile of stone ruin, what was once a human village. Old walls still stood, covered in moss and scorch marks. Everything else was gone, burned to dust. Lyra looked around, her eyes full of sadness. Did your people live here? Eli nodded. A long time ago, before the war came. She touched one of the walls gently, tracing the burned marks. I didn't think humans could build such quiet places. He gave a small smile. We used to build a lot of quiet things. Then we learned how to destroy them. There was silence for a while, only the crackling of fire in the distance. Then Eli noticed something, a metal shape half buried under the stones. He brushed the dirt away and pulled it free. It was a long weapon, old, rusted, but still heavy and solid. A human gun. He flipped a switch. A dim blue light flickered near the grip. Lyra's face turned pale. That's the Soulbreaker. The what? Eli asked. It's forbidden, she said softly. A weapon that feeds on fear. It burns not just bodies, but memories. My people destroyed them all. Eli turned the weapon in his hands. Guess they missed one. She reached out weakly. Please, don't use it. It kills too much. Eli nodded slowly and set it aside. Then it stays quiet. Until we need it. Night fell over the forest. The smoke cleared a little and the stars came out. Strange, distant stars that neither of them recognized. Eli built a small fire using scraps of dry bark. Lyra sat beside it, wrapping her blanket tight around her shoulders. You could have left me, she said softly. You should have. I could have, Eli answered, staring into the flames. But I didn't, she tilted her head. Why? He poked the fire with a stick, thinking. Because once, someone helped me. They didn't have to. But they did. I never forgot. She watched him quietly. Then she smiled, small and shy. Maybe humans aren't all monsters. Eli chuckled. We're a mix of both. Depends on the day. They both laughed softly. The first sound of peace since dawn. But it didn't last long. Suddenly the ground trembled again. A deep humming sound filled the air. Eli's fire flickered. He looked up and saw blue lights flickering through the trees. Drones, Lyra whispered. No, worse. Soldiers. Eli grabbed his bag and slung it over his shoulder. Can you walk? Barely. Then hold on. He lifted her again and ran toward the deeper woods. Behind them, bright beams of light cut through the trees, burning everything in their path. A voice echoed through the forest in the alien tongue, sharp and commanding. Lyra froze. "That's my father's general." "Then we move faster," Eli said. They reached a ridge overlooking the burning forest. From there, Eli could see dozens of glowing figures marching below. The Tavari warriors, 50 of them armored like living machines. Lyra's voice trembled. "They'll never stop." Eli looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then neither will I." As the flames spread across the valley, he gripped the old weapon tighter. The forest behind them burned red against the night sky, a sea of fire. Eli and Lyra disappeared into the darkness above it. Two tiny figures climbing toward the mountains, and behind them, the war followed, step by step, flame by flame. The night air was thin and cold. Above the mountains, the stars shimmered like dust on black glass. Eli and Lyra had found a small cave near the cliffside, deep enough to hide them from the patrol lights. The sounds of war still echoed faintly in the distance, but for now they had silence. Eli set down the old weapon beside him. Its faint blue light pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. He didn't know how it worked, only that it felt heavy, not in weight but in presence. It seemed to hum when he touched it, whispering through the air like it remembered things it had destroyed. Lyra watched from her spot near the wall, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dark. Her wounded leg was wrapped in old fabric, still swollen. "Why do you keep that thing?" she asked softly. "It's not a weapon. It's a curse," Eli shrugged. "Maybe, but I don't plan to use it unless I must." She frowned. "It feeds on emotion, on fear, pain, guilt. When fired, it drinks from the heart of the one who pulls the trigger." Her voice was full of old sorrow. "It kills more than it saves." Eli looked at her across the firelight. "Maybe that's why humans made it. We build things that break us." For a while there was only silence. The small fire crackled softly, and the wind howled outside the cave. Eli leaned back against the stone wall and looked at her. "Your people, they really hate us, don't they?" Lyra lowered her eyes. "We were taught that humans are monsters, that you destroy everything you touch." She paused. "But you carried me through fire." "Monsters don't do that," Eli smiled faintly. "We can be both monsters and protectors." Her eyes lifted to meet his, bright with something new, trust. It was strange, that feeling. A human and an alien, hunted by both worlds, sitting together under a dying sky. Neither belonged anywhere, yet here in this cold cave, they found a piece of peace. Later that night, Eli examined the weapon again. Its markings were worn but readable, human letters carved beside alien symbols. One word stood clear: Prototype 9, Soulbreaker. He wondered how many lives it had taken. He pressed a small button near the grip, and a faint hologram flickered to life. A voice spoke, weak, recorded long ago. "This weapon was meant to end the war." It didn't. Eli shut it off quickly. The voice made his chest ache, a reminder of how long the fighting had gone on and how many orphans it had made. Like him, he turned toward Lyra, who had fallen asleep. Her breathing was calm, almost peaceful. For the first time, she looked less like an alien and more like a person who'd simply seen too much. He smiled sadly and whispered, "You'll get home, I promise." Outside, a faint blue light flickered. The scouts were still searching. But the mountain mist was thick here. It would hide them until dawn. By morning, Lyra awoke to find Eli gone. Panic gripped her for a second, until she saw him outside the cave, kneeling by a small pile of broken metal. He was repairing something. "What are you doing?" she called weakly. He looked up, smiling. "Fixing the old weapon. Not for killing. For warning." She tilted her head. "Warning who?" Eli pointed toward the valley below. "The Tavari. If they think we're already dead, they'll stop searching this way." Using scrap metal and wires, he rerouted the weapon's power core to emit a signal, a fake explosion signature. He set it far down the slope, aimed at a cluster of rocks, and pressed the trigger. A deep roar echoed through the mountains. A wave of blue light burst into the air, shaking the ground. Even from far away, it looked like a detonation. Smoke rose high. The sound carried for miles. Lyra stared, amazed. "You fooled them," Eli smiled. "Let's hope so." They sat together, watching the smoke fade into the morning air. For a moment there was quiet, real quiet. Then Lyra spoke softly, Eli, if we reach the bridge, I can go home. But what will you do? He thought for a while before answering. I don't know. Maybe I'll finally stop running. She turned her head toward him. You helped someone your kind calls the enemy. Why? Eli gave her a tired grin. Because maybe helping an enemy makes them a friend. Lyra blinked, her eyes shimmering in the sunlight. You talk like the old stories. The ones my mother told me before the war. Maybe the old stories were right, he said. That night, as the stars rose again, Eli heard something strange. Faint metal footsteps in the distance. He froze, listening. The sound came from beyond the ridge. He quickly put out the fire. Lyra's voice was tense. They've found us again. He picked up the weapon and helped her to her feet. I'll lead them away, he said. No, she said sharply. You can't fight 50 soldiers. Maybe not, Eli said. But I can make them chase the wrong target. Before she could stop him, he ran into the darkness, weapon in hand, disappearing into the fog. Lyra shouted after him, but the night swallowed her voice. She looked out toward the valley where lights flickered like falling stars. Her heart raced, and she didn't understand humans, not really, but she knew this. Eli wasn't just brave. He was something her people didn't have a word for. Kind. The night wind howled across the cliffs. Eli ran through the fog, his boots crunching over loose rocks. In one hand, he carried the old weapon, and in the other, a flare light flickering red. He wanted to draw the enemy away from the cave, away from Lyra. Behind him, the faint glow of alien sensors cut through the darkness. The Tavari soldiers were close. Their armor gleamed like molten silver, their footsteps heavy and cold. Eli reached a narrow ridge and turned, aiming the flare into the sky. It burst with light, painting the valley in crimson. Instantly, the soldiers shifted toward him. Hey, he shouted into the void, his voice echoing. You're looking for me, right? Come and get me. He fired a shot from the old weapon, just one, into the air. The blue light roared across the mountains, shaking the ground. It wasn't meant to hit anyone. It was just enough to make noise. Enough to make them chase, and they did. The first plasma bolt struck the rocks near his feet. He ducked, sliding down the slope, dust flying around him. Energy blasts carved holes in the cliffside. The air smelled like burning metal. He stumbled, rolled, and came to rest near a cracked metal structure, the remains of an old transport pod. Smoke and heat filled the air. He coughed, holding the weapon close, his heartbeat thundering. Then something hit him hard in the back, a stun pulse. His body went rigid, every muscle locking. The weapon fell from his hand. Through blurred eyes, he saw tall shadows surround him. The alien soldiers stepped out of the mist, armor shining blue under the stars. One of them raised a gauntlet, light glowing from its palm. Eli couldn't move. The stun pulse made him drop to his knees. The leader's voice was sharp and cold. Human detected. Weapon of extinction confirmed. Capture him alive. They bound his hands with magnetic cuffs and dragged him toward a hovering ship. The ramp opened with a hiss. Inside was all metal. Sharp, clean, inhuman. As they pulled him in, Eli whispered under his breath, Lyra, stay hidden. The ship lifted into the sky. The mountains below shrank into darkness. Eli sat chained to the floor, surrounded by alien guards. He could barely move his arms. Across from him, through the transparent wall, he saw something that made his heart sink. Another ship flying beside them. Inside that ship, he saw Lyra. She was surrounded by soldiers too. Her face pale, eyes wide with horror. They had found her. Their eyes met for a brief second through the glass. She pressed her hand against it, whispering something he couldn't hear. He gave her a weak smile, the kind that said, "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Hours later, the ships landed in a vast alien camp built into the side of the mountains. Metal towers glowed, and banners of the Tavari Empire waved in the cold wind. Eli and Lyra were brought into a large chamber filled with warriors. At the far end stood a tall figure in black armor, his presence colder than the air itself. His voice carried like thunder. General Kareth, one soldier said, kneeling, "We found your daughter, and the human who took her." Eli felt Lyra tense beside him. Her father. The general stepped forward, removing his helmet. His face was sharp, lined with age and fury. His eyes glowed like burning steel. "So," he said slowly, looking at Eli, "this human is the reason my daughter dishonored her blood." Lyra stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Father, please, he saved me. I would have died without him." Karith's expression didn't change. He polluted your mind with weakness. He showed me kindness. She shouted, tears forming in her eyes. Something our people forgot. The general's gaze turned to Eli. You helped her escape, human. Do you know the cost of what you've done? Eli straightened his back, still bound. I don't care about your rules. She needed help, so I helped her. A low murmur ran through the crowd. Karith's jaw tightened. Then you will die with honor. He raised his hand. The guards aimed their weapons. Lyra screamed, no. Don't hurt him! Before Karith could respond, the ground shook violently. Sirens blared through the camp. Outside, red explosions lit the sky. Human rebels were attacking. Enemy forces inbound, shouted a soldier. Multiple ships closing fast. The general cursed and barked orders. Defend the perimeter. In the chaos, the guards turned their attention to the attack. Eli saw his chance. He kicked one soldier in the knee, snatched the fallen stun baton and struck another across the chest. Sparks flew. He grabbed Lyra's hand. Come on! They ran through the smoke and flashing lights, alarms echoing everywhere. The shipyard outside was on fire. Human rebel ships rained missiles onto the base. Lyra stumbled as they ran, still limping, but Eli held her tight. They dashed toward a broken landing pad. Behind them, Karith's voice roared. You can't run from the Tavari. Eli turned and shouted back, watch me! He found the weapon lying among the wreckage, the soul breaker. He picked it up, slinging it across his shoulder. Then a blast tore through the ground, throwing both of them into the air. The world spun. Eli hit the ground hard, the sky blurring above him. His vision dimmed. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Lyra kneeling beside him, shouting his name as the alien camp burned behind them, and above it all the stars watched. Cold, silent, and endless. The world returned in pieces. Sound first, then light. Eli opened his eyes to a burning sky. Smoke curled above him, red and orange, like fire painted on clouds. His head throbbed and every breath hurt. When he tried to move, pain shot through his ribs. He was lying on broken stone near a wide ruin. Old alien structures half buried in dust. Nearby, the wreckage of 2 ships burned, sending black smoke into the wind. He pushed himself up slowly. Lyra? No answer. He looked around, heart pounding. Lyra. Then he saw her lying a few steps away, motionless among the rubble. Eli crawled to her, fear filling his chest. Her arm was bleeding, her skin pale under the firelight, but she was breathing, weak but alive. He let out a shaky breath. You're still with me. Her eyes fluttered open. Eli, where are we? He looked around again. The land was dry and cracked, scattered with ruins that looked like glass towers melted long ago. We must have crashed near the old teleporter, he said. You said it was across the mountains, right? Lyra nodded faintly. Yes, the Bridge of Light. It's close. I can feel it. Good, Eli said, helping her sit up. Then we'll get there before your father does. But even as he spoke, the ground began to tremble. A low hum filled the air, deep and heavy. Lyra's eyes widened. No, they're already here. Eli looked toward the horizon and saw them. Dark figures marching in lines, armor glowing blue. 50 alien warriors moving like a silver tide across the valley. Their banners shimmered and their ships hovered above them like silent hawks. Eli's throat went dry. 50? Lyra's voice shook. They will kill us both. He tightened his grip on the weapon, the soul breaker. The old gun hummed, its faint light flickering like lightning in a storm. I don't plan on dying yet. They hid behind the ruins as the warriors approached. The air burned with the heat of their engines. Eli looked at Lyra. If we can reach the teleporter, can it take you home? She nodded. Yes, but I need to activate it from the core. It needs my bloodline code. Then you go. I'll hold them off. Her eyes widened. You can't fight them all. He smiled faintly. I don't need to win. I just need to buy time. Lyra grabbed his hand. Her fingers were cold and trembling. Eli, if you stay, I know, he said softly. But someone has to make sure you get home. For a moment, they just looked at each other. 2 souls from different worlds, bound by something neither could explain. Then she whispered, I won't forget you. He smiled. Good, now go. As Lyra limped toward the teleporter ruins, Eli stepped out into the open. The wind blew hard, carrying dust across the valley. He raised the weapon and fired a warning shot. The ground exploded in blue fire, stopping the front line of soldiers. They spread out, encircling him. One shouted in the alien tongue, his voice amplified through a mask. "Human, you hold a forbidden weapon. Drop it or you will be erased," Eli smirked. "Come take it," the first soldier fired. The plasma bolt missed by inches, melting the stone beside him. Eli fired back. The soul breaker roared, a blinding pulse of blue light that ripped through the enemy's armor. The soldier fell motionless. The others hesitated, shocked. Even they feared this weapon. Eli took a deep breath. The gun felt alive now, humming stronger, whispering in his mind. He could feel something strange, his fear, his pain feeding into it. "Don't lose control," he told himself. "Just hold them." He moved between ruins, firing short bursts. Every shot echoed like thunder. Alien soldiers fell one after another, but more kept coming. Above, ships circled, raining plasma beams down from the clouds. The air turned red and blue with fire. The ground shook with every blast. Eli stumbled behind a broken pillar, panting. His arms ached. The weapon's energy burned his palms, leaving marks like frostbite.
Still, he held on.
He thought of Lyra, of her small smile, of her trust, and stood again. "I promised," he whispered, and fired once more. Meanwhile, inside the teleporter chamber, Lyra reached the glowing core, a ring of crystal pillars. Her trembling hands pressed against them. Symbols lit up beneath her touch, ancient and bright. "Come on. Please work," she whispered. Outside, another explosion shook the ground. She looked through the cracks in the wall, Eli still fighting, surrounded by fire and smoke. Tears blurred her vision. "Stop. You've done enough." She stepped out of the chamber and screamed, "Eli!" He turned just in time to see her limping toward him, light glowing around her hands. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Her voice carried over the roar of battle. "You can't stop them alone." The glow around her grew brighter until her whole body shimmered like the stars above. The air crackled with strange energy. Eli's eyes widened. "Lyra, what's happening?" She looked at him with calm sadness. "You freed me. Now let me free you." She raised her hands. A surge of white light exploded from her chest, spreading through the ruins. The alien soldiers stopped, blinded, frozen in place. Their armor flickered as the energy washed over them. The soul breaker in Eli's hands glowed pure white, its deadly hum fading into silence. Lyra's voice echoed softly. "The bridge is open." He turned. The teleporter ring behind her shimmered with golden light, forming a doorway of pure energy. She smiled faintly through her tears. "Go, before it closes." Eli took a step forward. "Not without you." But before he could reach her, the light consumed everything, fire, sky, and sound. And when the light faded, the valley was silent again. When the light faded, silence returned. No fire, no engines, no screams, only the soft whisper of the wind moving through the ruins. Eli lay on the ground, half buried in dust and ash. His ears rang, his body ached, but he was alive. He opened his eyes slowly. The sky above was clear for the first time in days. The smoke was gone. The clouds glowed gold in the dawn light, as if the world itself was waking after a nightmare. He sat up, coughing. Around him the valley was still. The alien soldiers gone, their armor scattered and empty. Their ships had vanished too, leaving nothing but quiet. And there at the center of it all stood the teleporter, glowing faintly, its ring cracked but alive. Eli's heart skipped. "Lyra." He stumbled forward, calling her name again. "Lyra, where are you?" Then he saw her, lying at the foot of the teleporter, motionless. Her silver hair shimmered faintly in the morning light, her body still glowing with that strange, soft energy. Eli ran to her and fell to his knees. "Lyra, please." He lifted her gently. Her breathing was faint, her skin cold as glass. Her eyes fluttered open just a little. She smiled weakly. "You made it." He shook his head, his throat tight. "We made it. You opened the portal." She nodded slowly. "It's not stable. I can hold it for a little while. Enough to send one person through." Eli looked toward the ring of light. It shimmered like water, a bridge made of gold and stars. Through it, he could see another world, shining towers, blue skies, people with silver skin walking in peace. Her home. He looked back at her. You go. She gave a soft laugh, though it sounded more like a sigh. It's for you. What? No. He shook his head. That's your world. You belong there. And you don't belong here, she said gently. Your world burned. Your people are gone. This can be your beginning. Eli's hands trembled. I can't leave you. Lyra reached up and touched his cheek. You already saved me. You showed me what kindness means. That's more than any world could give. Her touch was fading, her glow dimming. The portal will collapse soon, you have to go. He grabbed her hand, holding it tight. Come with me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I can't. My energy keeps the bridge open. If I leave, it dies. Tears filled his eyes. There has to be another way. She smiled faintly. Maybe there is, in another life. The wind grew stronger, pulling at the dust and stones around them. The light of the teleporter pulsed faster, the bridge beginning to fade. Eli looked into her eyes one last time. I'll never forget you. You won't have to, she whispered. Look at the stars. I'll be there. Her hand slipped from his grasp, glowing brighter for a final moment. Go, Eli. Live. He stood slowly, every step heavy. The wind roared around him, the light nearly blinding now. He turned toward the portal. It shimmered like a sunrise waiting just beyond reach. He took one last look at her, the girl who had once been his enemy, who became his only friend. Then with a deep breath, he stepped through the bridge of light. The world on the other side was quiet and warm. He landed on soft grass under a blue sky filled with silver clouds. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. He turned back, but the portal was already closing. Through the fading light, he saw her one last time, standing tall, glowing brighter than ever. She smiled, peaceful, proud. And then she was gone. The light faded completely, leaving behind only a small necklace, a silver crystal that glowed faintly in his palm. Lyra's necklace. Eli fell to his knees, clutching it to his chest. Tears fell quietly, mixing with the soft wind. The war, the pain, the fear, all of it felt far away now. He whispered into the wind, Thank you, Lyra. Above him, the sky shimmered faintly, and for a brief moment the clouds formed the shape of glowing wings. Then they faded, leaving only sunlight. Years later, travelers spoke of a strange human living near the mountains. He was quiet but kind, helping anyone who crossed his path. He built a small home beside the ruins of an old teleporter. At night, he would sit outside, looking up at the stars, always at the same one, the brightest in the sky. When people asked why, he would smile and say, There's someone up there watching. Someone who once crossed a river with me and changed everything. And every dawn, when the first light touched the valley, the necklace in his hand would glow just for a second, as if the stars themselves remembered.